What's up, Accelerated Chemistry? This is Mr. Spurk, and this is your Chapter 9, Section 3 notes, all over naming and writing formulas for molecular compounds. First thing we want to discuss is binary molecular compounds. Now, like binary ionic compounds, binary molecular compounds are also composed of two elements, but both elements are nonmetals. Ionic charges cannot be used to write formulas or to name them for molecular formulas. And when two nonmetallic elements combine, they often do so in more than one way. For example, carbon and oxygen combine to form two gaseous compounds, CO and CO2. However, the two carbon oxides are very different compounds. You exhale CO2, and CO is a poisonous gas. So for naming binary molecular compounds, the prefixes in the names of binary molecular compounds help us distinguish compounds containing different numbers of atoms, such as CO and CO2. So if you look at the table over here on the right, you can see that we have a column that says prefix and another one that says number. So when you're looking at your formula, you want to look at the number of atoms that you have of a certain element, and then you apply that prefix to it when naming it. So 1 is mono, 2 is di, and so on. We have tri, tetra, penta, hexa, hepta, octa, nona, deca. You might remember something similar to this from your geometry class, where the only difference is now we have a mono and a di, and instead of quadra for four sides, we have tetra. Prefixes tell us how many atoms of an element are present in each molecule of the compound. So for example, we have CO and CO2. So when we go about naming these, we're going to follow the rules on the following slide. So the first thing we want to do is that we must first identify that the compound is a binary molecule. So like with CO, we know that there are two elements present and they are both nonmetals, so we have a binary molecular compound. So we can start to follow these rules. So we write the names of the elements in order listed in the formula. Then we're going to use prefixes appropriately to indicate the number of each kind of atom. If just one atom of the first element is in the formula, we omit the prefix mono. And the vowel at the end of a prefix is sometimes dropped when the name of the element begins with a vowel. And then our third step is to end the name of the second element with the suffix IDE. So let's get right into some examples. If we look at the first compound written on the left, we see that there's tetraphosphorus trisulfide. So the first thing we can do is look at the first word and notice that the element that it names is phosphorus. We know that that element's symbol is P. And we now know from that table a few slides back that tetra means 4. So we have 4 phosphorus. And trisulfide would mean that we have 3 S's. So it's just that simple. You just need to know your element symbols and the prefixes. So for dinitrogen monoxide, we would have N, di means 2, mono means 1, and oxide is for oxygen, so N2O. And for this last one, we have selenium tribromide. Now, if you notice, we only have one selenium and there's no prefix mono. That's because one of the conditions of that second rule is that if the first element is only 1, we don't add mono. So for selenium, we only have 1, and we have tribromide, so Br3. So let's go the other way now. Now we're going to be naming them. So here we have CO, and we have one of each. So remember that if there's one of the first element, we don't use the prefix mono. So we're just going to name this one carbon. and we have one oxygen, so mono. And if you remember that other condition, if the prefix ends in a vowel and the element starts with a vowel, we're going to drop the vowel. So on oxygen, we're going to drop the O. So we just have mono, X-I-D-E, carbon monoxide. Now for the second one, again, we only have one carbon. So we're just going to say carbon. And now we have two oxygens. So we use our prefix for two, which is di, dioxide. Now for this last one, since our first element has a prefix, or there's more than one of them, we're going to need a prefix. So our prefix for two is di. So dichlorine. Because the first element, we just use the whole name. We don't need to use IDE. And then 8 is octa. So we say oct oxide. So Cl2O8 is dichlorine octoxide. Good news, this is the end of your Chapter 9, Section 3 notes, and as always, the information on these slides has been acquired and adapted from Pearson Chemistry 2012 edition of the textbook, Resources CD, and pearsonchem.com. Thanks so much. Have a good rest of your day.